It says we are live. This hangout is on the air. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lunch with Len. It is November 10th, 2015, and we put together a little, what I hope is going to be a really interesting little Lunch with Len for you today. I've assembled a small panel here, and it's starting with Michael Pearce, who volunteered the other day to talk about healthy heart, and myself and Bob. And the reason the three of us are over here is because each one of the three of us have gone through some sort of cardio issues in the last, I don't know, number of years. And so I thought it'd be an interesting discussion. Now, I also don't mean to exclude anybody else. Anyone who wants to come over and join the party is welcome to come over. Just let me know in the chat that you'd like to join us and talk live. But before we do that, I'm going to turn this over to Michael, who's going to talk to us for, I don't know, what, about 10 minutes, Michael?
Hopefully
10, 15 minutes about the 10 factors to be aware of to have, maintain, keep a healthy heart. Is that an appropriate introduction?
That covers it.
It covers it. All right. So Michael, you've got the show. Once again, anyone who wants to come over and join us live in a few minutes, let me know, and I will start to bring people across a few minutes from now. Okay. So let me know in the chat. Michael, you've got the floor. It's yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Len. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Len, for giving me this forum here in front of your audience. I really appreciate it. I'm going to give you the quick 90-second version of my wake-up call, for lack of a better word. And I'm hoping somewhere in that story that somebody in the audience will grab something that will be a clue to them so they can avoid the traumatic experience I went through. So I'm going to go back 3 years, 9 months ago. I was out doing newspapers. It was midnight. I was alone. I had this radiating pain in my chest. I was thirsty. That wasn't a clue. That wasn't, for some reason at the time, that wasn't a big enough clue. I came home, went back to bed, slept for 3 hours, and I woke up, honestly, it felt like an elephant sitting, pressing on my chest. My right arm was so weak I had to roll over and actually push off the bed with my left hand because I couldn't use my right hand while I was having the heart attack. And I still honestly didn't realize it was a heart attack. I was stubbornly in denial because in my family history, old men died from heart attacks, guys in their mid-60s, late 60s. Both my grandfathers had died at 66 of a heart attack. That was the family story. Cut through all the stuff in the emergency. After an hour and a half of resting in the emergency, with fortunately the care of one of two local cardiac specialists, they decide that because I'm still having little heart attacks and little blockages, that they're going to send me to Victoria, 300 kilometers or about 160 miles away for the Americans, via helicopter. So it was at the point where they strapped me into the gurney and wheeled me outside where I really started to get nervous. I had been arguing already with the cardiologist that I couldn't be having a heart attack because I was the healthiest I'd ever been. He says, the only reason you're arguing is because you are the healthiest you've ever been. Most guys in your condition would be on oxygen. That was sobering. That made me stop, sit down, and let him put the EKG stuff on. And an hour and a half later, I, for the first time, actually became concerned because, well, the wash of the helicopter blades was over me, and I'm waiting to speak to my wife. The cardiologist comes up to me and says, probably the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. He says, make peace with your wife. I can't guarantee you'll ever see her again. It was at that moment that I finally realized that this was deadly serious. One of the problems with having congestive heart failure is you can't think clearly near the end because without enough oxygen getting to your brain, you don't have your full intellect available to you. So in an effort to prevent other people from having to go through emergency stenting or emergency open heart surgery, I'm going to share to you all the risk factors I've found out during my recovery process and my study to educate myself on this, and I'm hoping in the discussion of these risk factors to aid somebody else in avoiding emergency surgery. So I've just covered my screen, and I'm going to bring up a screen share here. And pop up my Word document. So it says, what you don't understand can kill you. And in order to dispel some common myths, I'm working on sharing the commonly misunderstood risk factors. I had most of these, and this list should have gotten my attention sooner. Now there's going to be a test here. I'd like each of you to get out a piece of paper or something to take notes on. And as I come to a risk factor, if you have it, please write down the percentage of risk factor that whatever you're suffering from or whatever ails you adds up to. It is my hope that you as the readers will recognize what I didn't grasp at the time. And I'm offering you, how do your risk factors add up? So the top 12 in total that I'll cover, I have 10 of these. Do you suffer from high blood pressure? Between 120 and 80 is normal. Up to 150, 110 is okay. That becomes a 10% risk factor once you go over that line. If your blood pressure gets up where mine was at 180 over 140, that's actually a 20% risk factor, and they're going to want to get you on some sort of blood thinner right away. So the second danger is a high pulse rate. It is normal for your heart to beat between 50 and 60 beats a minute and up to 75 while you're in strenuous exercise. But if your resting pulse is over 75 beats per minute, that's a 10% risk factor. So number 2, if you've ever had a heart resting over 75, write yourself down 10%. If you've ever had a resting pulse over 100, that's huge. That's a 20% risk factor, and you need to go see a doctor right away, because over 100 will shorten your life in maybe a decade if you allow your heart to keep racing like that. And there's medication you can take that will just slow your heartbeat without doing anything else. The third risk factor is high bad cholesterol, or the piece I missed in the puzzle, exceptionally low good fats. So you need good fats and you need some bad fats. But the thing to be aware of is the difference between the two numbers. So if you have 1 good and 2 bad, you're fine. 1 good and 3 bad, you're okay. If you have 1 good and 4 times bad, that's a 10% risk to your heart health, and besides 3, you need to write down 10%. If you happen to ever get to where I was, which is 6 times, or actually 6.6 times, because my good cholesterol was less than 0.5%, even though my bad was only almost 4, because my good was so small, the difference or the factor between them was huge, and I had a 20% risk factor in this category at only 46. Number 4 was a sudden loss of eyesight. At about 43, I started having trouble reading documents at the office where I was a financial advisor. It turns out that the optic nerve is the largest consumer of blood in your brain, and if your heart's not functioning properly, your optic nerve being starved of good blood flow will decrease your eyesight. And it's one of those things you actually can't recover from, because once that artery is shrunk, they don't grow out again. They don't fill back out. So I'll be wearing reading glasses for the rest of my life. This is also the same condition that leads to blindness in diabetics. Risk factor number 5, you could lose your definition and your fine touch. So when you have poor blood circulation, your body keeps most of the blood inside your body, so you can have trouble feeling your fingers and your toes. So if you have poor circulation, that's a 10% risk factor. And number 5. Number 6 is a basic test. I like to think that every one of us, except maybe Len this week because he's recently had hip surgery, could go outside, walk 1 standard mile in less than 15 minutes and not be out of breath. If you cannot walk 1 mile or 3 kilometers in Canada in 15 minutes without being out of breath, you need to add 20% to your risk factor and do all your loved ones a favor. Call your doctor and get a non-stress test because you're heading for a heart attack. I missed this 2 weeks before my heart attack, and that could have saved me that helicopter ride. I'm going to back in a minute. Request the baby star, please.
No, I need to.
I'm talking, thanks. I'm back. Number 7 on the risk factors list is, do you smoke? Now, I'm going to give the message from the cardiologist here. He told me when he asked me the question before surgery, do you smoke cigarettes? It was the most important question I'd ever asked in my life, because if you tell the cardiologist when you're having a heart attack you're a smoker, automatically stents aren't an option, you're in for a bypass, you're going to get a zipper. You're automatically, in Canada at least, if you're still smoking, you're up for open heart, and the risk factor is 10% per pack per day. The same cardiologist says that smoking pot doesn't have these problems because it's the chemicals in the cigarettes that are actually causing damage inside your circulatory system. But again, I guess the same would be if anything else you're smoking has chemicals or has been treated by pesticides, your risk factor from it goes up 10%. Number 8, family history. Add 10% to your risk factors for each relative that you know that has been deceased from heart disease. So heart disease is heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes, because until 1955, all of these illnesses were considered cardiovascular disease, and they were treated together. Then the pharmaceutical companies figured out they could separate the diseases and sell more pharmaceuticals. But they're all basically the same thing. The stresses of life on your body aren't being cleaned up inside your body. It causes inflammation inside your arteries that leaves a place for the plaque to stick to. Your arteries become congested. You're heading for a heart problem. Number 9 is, do you consume alcohol? If it's a little bit, 10%. If it's every day, even more than one drink every day, add 20% to your risk factors. That's a tough one for me. My mom died of cirrhosis of the liver at age 64, so drinking something I don't tend to enjoy or participate in. This brings me to number 10. Death of an immediate family member adds 20% to your short-term risk factor. I was at 120% when my mom died, and my heart attack was 31 days later to the day. So I found this out afterwards, but death of an immediate family member, so that son, daughter, mother, father, wife, husband, it puts a huge stress on your heart, and it can be the thing that causes you to have a heart attack. Number 11 is having diabetes. I'm sorry, but if you have diabetes, this is a triple bonus to your risk factors. It's a 30% increase because statistically, 80% of all people with diabetes end up dying from a heart attack or stroke. But if you're only pre-diabetic, please add 10% to your risk factors. And the last thing I found out in the research I knew nothing about, because this isn't me, if you're of Native ancestry, African, or South Asian descent, any one of these 3 ethnic heritages add 10% to your cardiovascular risk factors. So now you know your heart risk factors. What did you get? And if you want to know more about how all this works, just visit my homepage at Michael's Health Answers, opt in for the email, and I'll give you my entire heart healthy recovery story. I've got a book there called Your Heart Attack Survival Guide, and it covers the 6 months before and the 3 years after my heart attack, every single thing I did that made a difference. So I'm going to drop this Word document and come off screen share and stop talking.
You're still there.
Sorry, I didn't see the button at the bottom. I had to relinquish control.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty interesting. The good news for me is my risk factors are, well, they're not 0, but they're pretty low. It's interesting about the high pulse rate. I've always had a high pulse rate, but everything else is pretty much under control.
Well, that's wicked good news if you've already had heart surgery in your life.
Yeah. Well, I think the important message for me is, and for everyone else too, is because of my exercise, because of my water skiing and things like that, I began to recognize symptoms before it became fatal. That's simple. So I ended up doing a stress test, which showed that I had blockages in a couple of arteries. And because of the nature of the blockages, they were able to repair them. It was open heart. When you say zipper, you mean You mean the scar, not in the chest?
Yeah, where locally here, there's a club called the Zipper Club, and it's anybody that's been through open heart surgery, because that's sort of their badge of, honorarium for surviving, is that zipper.
Yeah. Okay. So, Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just the main factor for me when I had the stroke was high blood pressure. That was the main thing for me. I had high blood pressure, but I was aware of it because I used to give blood a lot of times, and the last few times that I gave blood, they wouldn't take it. They said because it was too high. But I wish that what they should have done was give me the risk. I didn't realize the risk.
Yeah, 20% at that point.
That's like
Just
real
there.
extremely high. It's just the #1 cause of stroke. I know that. So my blood pressure is right now is perfect. I take one lisinopril high blood pressure pill a day. That's all I take. Everything else is just fine. But that's a major one, blood pressure, and for heart attacks as well.
Yeah, and I went through a period of time in my life when everything was marginally high. The blood pressure was marginally high. My blood sugar was marginally high. Cholesterol was marginally high. I was labeled pre-diabetic. And the interesting thing about it is not one of the factors was you couldn't identify any single factor and say that, boy, that was really, really high. They were just all marginal. But all marginal led to the final result. And I think, many of us, I don't know about you, but I know about me, many of us tend to ignore these warning symptoms. Oh, well, my blood pressure is a little high. It's no big deal.
Right.
My blood sugar is a little high. I can deal with it. Because we don't feel anything happening at the moment.
It's the frog in the boiling water symptom.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the message is these symptoms need to be taken seriously.
Even if you just have 5 risk factors at 10%, that adds up to 50%.
Right. Now, what does that really mean, though? I mean,
Well,
there are certain things you can't do anything about. My father died. I have a family history. My father died during open heart surgery when he was in his 70s, early 70s. So that adds a risk factor that is not controllable. So how do we evaluate these risk factors? Let's say that my risk factor is 30%. What does that really mean?
it means that it is the time to start doing at least one thing to improve your heart health profile, be that exercise, quality of intake, or cutting something that's stressful out of your life. Because in my experience, a lot of the reason I had a heart attack at 46 was I wasn't good at dealing with the change in financial fortune I had when I lost my license as a financial advisor and ended up unemployed and unemployable without any social benefits, because being self-employed, you don't get EI or medical EI when there's a problem. And actually, when you're an independent contractor, they just pull your license and say, sorry, didn't work out, bye.
Okay. And oh, by the way, parenthetically, I can walk a mile in 15 minutes, no problem at all. I'm back to the gym. With permission of my hip surgeon, I started back to the gym 3 or 4 days ago, and yesterday I walked a mile on the treadmill and then did a couple miles on a stationary bike. So all that's behind me, and I'm back exercising again. So. Okay, I've been asking the chat if anyone else wants to come over and join us. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts or et cetera for the panel they'd like to toss at us? So, my purpose here is, again, the 3 of us who are over here each one of us has experienced some sort of cardiovascular/heart/circulatory problem in the last number of years. And so, for each of us, Bob ignored high blood pressure. I sort of ignored multiple warning signs for a long period of time, and fortunately caught it before it turned into a widowmaker. When I did go into open heart surgery, which was about 1.5 years ago now, I had 2 two blood vessels blocked on the right side, an 80% to 90% block. So it was pretty serious blockage. Uh, and the good news is that I did not have a heart attack, and my heart muscle is strong and is in good condition. And hopefully now that I have new plumbing, I'm good to go for a while. I've got another 10,000 miles to go. Uh,
So, for an information comparison, when I was pre-surgery in the on the angio table, I actually had three 90% blockages and two 70s, and the last 70 was so far down in the front of my heart on the left, they never stinted it or fixed it because they figured the risk to me was more than the reward from having it benefited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess the message out there, the message from the three of us to the group collectively is take this stuff seriously. If you haven't had a physical in a long time, go get one. If you don't know what your blood pressure is, go get it measured. If you don't know what your sugar level is, get it measured. If you don't know what your cholesterol is, get it measured. Take a look at these risk factors for yourself, evaluate them, and then there's a couple of things that I know all three of us do. I don't know about you, Michael, but I'm going to assume you're on some sort of an exercise program. Yes?
I have a Fitbit, and I average now 9,000 steps a day.
Okay. What's a Fitbit?
It's a free app you can get on your Android or iPhone. You can download it, and it keeps track of the number of steps you walk like a pedometer.
Okay. Okay. So you walk, mostly walk?
My contract drive in the morning, which takes me 4 hours, involves walking almost 4,000 steps. So part of my healthy recovery was choosing an occupation that demanded walking as part of my job. So I do that 6 mornings a week. Okay.
And then I know Bob, I know you get a fair amount of exercise. You want to talk to the folks about what you do?
Well, and before I even say it, I was going to ask Michael a question about exercise because, about a year and a half ago, was when I had a dissected aorta, which was totally out of the blue. My heart was always in really good shape. It was a stroke I had the issue with, but I was going to go to a meeting, a Toastmaster meeting, which I did, 7 o'clock in the morning. I got up, I was all fired up. I felt really great, like I usually do in the morning. I did a lot of push-ups, like 350 push-ups that morning. Got all ready for this. I was going to speak at this event that I had a meeting afterwards. So I went to the Toastmaster meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, gave the speech, won best speaker. I was all fired up. Then after I sat down, I felt this almost like nervousness, almost like I was like afraid to, you get that, when you get kind of afraid to talk kind of feeling.
Yeah, butterfly almost.
Yeah, it was like after the speech, not before it. I felt good before the speech, but after I sat down, I go, oh my God, this is weird. I felt like this is just kind of weird. So then right after the meeting ended, it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, or 8:30 in the morning. I went to my other meeting, which was close by, 9 o'clock. I walked into the room. In the room, there's a lot of people. The room seemed smaller. I was like, oh my God, and I'm in a suit and tie. And then I just said, I got claustrophobia. I told one of my coworkers, I can't do this. I came home, and that's when I started getting that elephant on my chest, Michael. I started feeling that heaviness. Then I called 911, and what it was the aorta, the big giant artery, whatever, from the thing split, and the inside just tore right down. So
yeah, the femoral artery is where the blood comes out of the heart at the bottom and goes to the trunk.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know what caused that. I have maybe the push-ups or something. I have no idea what caused that. It wasn't anything that I was doing before.
It's a genetic disorder. My father actually had an aortic dissection fixed by surgery at 61, so that'd be 11 years ago. And it was part of the reason why I was aware of my heart health risks and had already started doing things 3 years before my heart attack. Because I'd been at my dad's bedside when he was told he was actually in having an ultrasound done for kidney problems, and they found the dissection. He was swelled up to 8 millimeters, and his stock is 2, and they say about 10 you rupture. So you must have gotten up to the 10 or 11 and actually sprung a leak. You're a very lucky man, Bob, because most people bleed out in less than 5 minutes and never recover if they're outside a hospital.
I know. They told me that, yeah. Surprised me.
Well, the reality is that all three of us are there's probably nobody sitting on this panel that should be alive today, given the magnitude of what we all went through. We all skated through it by the skin of our chinny chin chin, and I think the warning that we're trying to put out and hopefully help some of our other friends out there is to pay attention to these symptoms and to get them under control if they're not under control.
Exactly.
And I know the other thing that all three of us are into is doing things. We're into exercise, and I know I go to the gym, and I'm getting more and more religious about going to the gym. I will not let my excuses like I'm too busy, I got too much to do, interfere with my getting to the gym. Target is a minimum of 3 times a week. And then also, and we're not on the selling webinar here, but we're also into supplements and healthy things. Michael, you're doing Immunical. What's it called? Immunical?
It's Immunical, and it's a whey protein isolate from a company called Immunitech Research from Canada.
And then Bob and I are both doing isogenics, again, supplements and et cetera, to try to make sure that we maintain a healthy weight and a healthy diet. And I'm eating less and less cheeseburgers and pepperoni pizzas. Right, Bob?
I guess.
We're not being perfect, but we've certainly made some modifications to our diet over the last. I've certainly made modifications to mine. And Michael, weight too. You were hugely overweight, correct?
Yeah, there's a picture on my back wall there, and that's Michael at 280 pounds, and that would be about 2008.
Yeah.
I had a 48-inch waist. I was 5'10", and I could barely get my ass through a doorway.
Yeah. So getting that weight under control also a huge. Now, being overweight wasn't on the risk factor list though.
Probably an oversight on my part because it's a personal thing that I've overcome. But I probably should add a 13.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that 40 pounds overweight is 10%, and 80 pounds overweight is 20%. Realistically, if you go from fat to obese, once you hit the obese factor, you're into a 20% risk factor onto your potential add-ups. It is a blind spot for me. I was overweight for 30 years. The first time I was 200 pounds, I was 11 years old. So until I found this regimen of supplements, I started 7 years. I'd literally gained 5 pounds every year of my life from that 200 pounds. And it just couldn't stop it.
Right. Okay. Well, that's it. That's it. I don't see any questions coming in from the group. What is that, Larry? What's the comment? Thank God it wasn't. Anyhow, let's see. Except for Chris telling me I should have whiteboxed you. My apologies for that. Is your list of risk factors is available on your website? People can go download it if they want to look at it.
Absolutely. The post is actually called "What Are Your Risk Factors?" And it's available on the blog.
Okay. Cool. Bob, you got anything to add?
No. No.
Thanks for. Go ahead. Pardon me.
I don't have any. No, I'm good.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I hope you got value out of this. Please take it seriously. You might not be as lucky as the 3 of us were. So take these risk factors seriously and go take care of yourself. We love you. We want to see you around for a long time to come. That's all for today. This is Len. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you on Thursday with Lunch with Len again. I'm going to stop the broadcast. Bye for now. All right, Chris, thank you. Chris says that was eye-opening. Here we go.
Thanks, Len.